Welcome to the Enterpriser Podcast. My name is Liam Byrne. I'm going to be your host today. And today we have with us Tyler Hayden. Tyler is an internationally renowned motivational and keynote speaker. He is a seasoned team building expert, a best-selling author, an educator, formerly an elected official, and is an artist, and at one time was even a chicken farmer. Thank you for joining me on the show today, Tyler.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Liam. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I'm excited to meet your listeners.
Yeah, me too, for sure. We've connected over the years a couple of times on other projects. We never really synergized. This is the first time that we actually our calendars lined up and we got something. I got to make something happen, so I'm happy. Before we get into it, tell me what's new with you. What's happening in your sphere right now?
So it's crazy. Things are growing like crazy. I'm working on a new project. So I've got a beta project that we're working on rolling out called Team Building School. I'm taking 28 years in this business of building teams, and I'm basically uploading my hard drive into an LMS, a learning management system, where managers, leaders can come in and they can download my stuff. There's templates and they can customize their tools and off they go. So that's super exciting. So I'm learning about like online sales and for digital products, which is something new for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was checking out the team building school. I want to touch on that a little bit. I noticed you're going to be speaking at the Turning Tide Leadership Conference in March. I just was wondering, what are you going to be talking about at the conference?
Yeah, so it's a super cool conference for business entrepreneurs. My focus is going to be on how do we maximize engagement of our team. So looking at engagement and retention, the work that I do, what I found is that if you have a team of 10, which is a dream for a lot of entrepreneurs,
yeah, totally.
but they're all at the same time, right? Just 10 people who might do stuff for us. The trick is getting just a little bit more out of each one, and engagement enables us to do that within the workplace. So I'm going to share some ideas and some tools of how to up level the people that we already have and increase their percentage of output in some really simple and easy ways. So like, for example, I'm going to talk about a stay interview instead of an exit interview. So
what is that?
Employers spend so much time talking about people when they're leaving. And it's like, why are you talking to them then? We have to talk to them while they're there. What are you loving? What's exciting to you? What are your goals? What's next? And when we create those stay interviews, we can help to match goals and desires and workflow all together in one tidy little package.
Very cool. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're a seasoned keynote professional. You've done keynotes internationally. I was looking at kind of how you work with the events that you connect with that you're going to speak at, and you don't just show up as a speaker. You seem to kind of plug yourself in as part of the production team, which is not something that I've seen before. Has that always been part of the way that you work with events? Do you find the teams?
100%. I love to not only get to know the organization or the industry. I think that you can provide greater context for how people can, apply your tools and technology. So I have a lot of, customization that happens. I love to get involved. I love to be inside of the event. I love to be able to help to make sure that people are getting the ROI that they're looking for. I mean, I think that's what the goal is when you go to an event, is to be able to learn something that is road ready, tested, and can be easily applied. So by getting involved in the event, whether it be sitting at the tables and taking in the previous speaker, so that I can take some of their knowledge and apply it to what it is that I'm doing, to kind of follow forward their message through. It's the intake with the event organizers up front to make sure that we have measurable learning objectives. So at the end of the day, we're not just, oh yeah, that was a fun show. It's like, no, you know what? These are the things that we learned. These are what people are walking away with. Any good event that you go to is about learning, and it's about action. It's about how can I take that one nugget and make a difference inside my business.
Yeah, that's anytime I go to a conference, I try to listen to everything, but I feel like there's always two or three like major nuggets that I've written down in my notebook, and those are the things. That's this is what I got what I paid for, because I got these three like super cool, actionable, practical, tactical. I can use this tomorrow in my business action items. That's always what I look for when I go to an event.
Yeah, and it's like you have to. It's like that proverbial fire hose, right? And you're just like you're getting pounded with all this water, and you're like, I just need a sip.
Yeah.
And if you can learn how to filter out that one drop of water or that 3 drops of water, that's the game changer.
For sure,
right? That's the game changer.
And kudos to event producers that make that their mission when they're producing the event, to make sure that they're not just like, when you produce an event in a certain space, you kind of know the topics that you have to cover to kind of wash over the whole sphere. But I find that the best events are when the producer is not just worried about making sure they cover all the right topics, but they've actually got these core pieces of information that they want to make sure that you walk away with, right? That's that the production team cares a lot about their audience when you can look at the agenda and you're like, okay, they're really they focused when they were setting out the topics to be discussed here. This is not just come one, come all.
Just a random throw up of like, here's some learning.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think team building is the same way. That's our approach to team design, whether it be in an event or a one-off customer event, or in coaching managers of how, or business owners of how to do that. It's about building those unique experiences in a way that people feel more connected, whether it be to the learning or to the organization.
For sure. So I noticed when I was reading through and looking at some of your past presentations, you do some pretty like outside of the box stuff in some of your keynotes. Like you have props and stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's so learning to me. I think that what speakers need to do, or when you're doing a presentation, needs to be multimodal. Not everybody learns the same way. Mm-hmm. So when you come and do a presentation, if it's stand and deliver, that will work for certain people. So if you stand in front of the podium and you speak, that works. But it's also about bringing in rubber chickens. It's about having fuzzy dice on the table and getting people to roll dice and have conversations with one another. It's about getting people to sometimes get up and move, and go to different corners to meet different people. There's different ways of activating people's learning, and I take a lot of time in figuring out exactly who's going to be in the room, what's their style of learning, and then we custom tailor the activities. Whether they're interactive conversation-based activities, whether they're get up and actually move around and do things activities. And we'll bring everything from, I've got unicorn horns with magical rings that you throw on.
That's awesome.
It all depends, all the way down to the stuff that people would say is less fluffy. We build race cars. We do lots of really fun interactive things just based on what people want to learn and how it is that they want to learn. It's not... Just because axe throwing worked for one group doesn't mean that it's going to work for every group. Just because doing a cook-off worked for one group doesn't mean it's going to work for every group. So you have to really custom tailor those experiences.
So what would you say is your favorite keynote that you've given, or your favorite team building session that you've given so far?
You know what? Okay, so for sheer size, because size matters sometimes, Liam, I did an event in Vegas. Yeah. It was a couple years back, and there were 8,000 people in the room.
That's crazy.
So I have to say that was amazing. I'd done quite a few groups of like 5,000, but it felt like double, like it was massive. And to hear so I tell comedic stories. I tell adventure stories about like flying airplanes over the Grand Canyon, jumping out of airplanes, swimming with great white sharks, jumping off of cliffs in the Swiss Alps, going scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef. I tell all these stories, and they're high energy, they're fun. And to hear 8,000 people laughing at the same time, and at the same time 8,000 people absolutely silent at the same time, oh, that was just like, that was amazing. That was awesome.
That would be incredible. Yeah,
So cool. It was an incredible experience. Yeah, absolutely.
the largest audience that I've spoken to was around 600 or 700 people, and that I'll never forget that energy in the room. Right.
Right.
So I've never had an opportunity to speak to an audience that size, but the room is the room in a when you go into a room and everyone's there for the same reason, even before the talking starts, there's an energy in the room that
100%.
that makes your heart beat a little faster, right?
Yeah, and a good room is an exchange of energy,
Yeah.
right? Like it's the exchange of energy right from the moment at which they walk in, right? It's how that experience is created. It's the lights, it's the audio, it's the where people are sitting, it's what you're doing with where they're sitting. It's all of that stuff. And then layering in great interaction, I mean, game changer, just so fun.
For sure. So tell me a little bit about what do you invest the majority of your time on in your business? Speaking gigs, corporate private trainings, your online school, writing. Like if I was an entrepreneur and I wanted to have an offering like yours, which is broad,
Yep.
where would I spend most of my time developing business?
So you know it's you know what a Venn diagram
Yep,
is? You know
of
how
course.
it's like the rings and they kind of lay over top of each other, kind of like the Olympic rings. This is the advice that I give to speakers who are starting out, and it's how I focus in my business. What it is I'm an author who's a speaker who's a consultant. And the magic spot is right where all of those kind of lay on top of each other. So you speak about what you consult about, you write about what you consult and speak about. It's all of those things laying on top of each other. So from an efficiency standpoint, they're all just different ways of providing the thing that I'm passionate about, which is how workplaces can be more engaged. So the trick is, predominantly, I'd say what I monetize the most is speaking. So speaking is what I monetize the most. Then beyond that, we're probably into the consulting, and hopefully, I think that the online stuff will shadow both of those. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the same piece, which is you're focusing on where those things meet. So I'm writing about what I'm passionate about. It's why I have 28 books. I'm speaking, which is why, and I'm speaking about the things I'm passionate about, which is why I do 50 to 60 shows a year. I'm consulting with organizations. I usually pick 2 to 3 a year to work with, and I'm doing it all about the same topic. So that diversity of delivery is what makes for a sustainable business. So in the last 28 years, I've weathered recessions, I've weathered strikes, I've weathered global pandemics, all because I keep that same approach of focusing on that piece that I'm passionate about and delivering it in multiple different ways.
Okay. Well, that brings me to a kind of a broader point then.
Sure.
I've noticed that a lot of self-employed individuals that I work with or give advice to, especially consultants, they've needed to add more service offerings because the world around us is costing more. And you've got a broad offering. What's your advice on multiple streams of income for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so it's about doing them well, but not being the best. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what I've learned is that I've written 28 books. And I've written 28 books. None of them are War and Peace. Several of them are bestsellers. But what I've been able to do is I've been able to think sideways about the product offering. So when I started working selling team building tools, and this was probably, 10, 15 years ago. And what I realized is I was printing these decks as an example, like card decks with questions and answers and that kind of stuff. But what I realized is I could put it into a book that would have the same questions that I could then deliver as a Kindle book. So I call them playbooks, right? It's still a book. 10 of my books are these playbooks, but these books give people access to a cool team building game. So as an entrepreneur, how can you think sideways about an offering that you can do well? It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can deliver it to a broader reach. These books, and these playbooks in particular, go all around the world, and managers can download them, keep them on their Kindle, and it's just like having a card deck of get-to-know-you activities inside their Kindle, right? Which can go on any phone. And then, you build the book. The books help to sell the keynotes. So people buy my books, and then they call me, and they're like, hey, would you come and perform for our organization or association? So figuring out what it is that I'm delivering that's going to help to manifest and benefit other sides of the business. So I'm writing books so that it sells keynotes, so that the keynotes then sell training programs and sell consulting business. So in any of those multiple streams of income, figure out where their connection points, which all comes back down to that Venn diagram, right? It's all about how are we connecting these pieces together. A multiple income stream that is outside of your passion, outside of your what you're known for, your brand, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, interesting. So
unless you're selling your brand itself, like I think about like East Coast lifestyle stuff where they're branding chips and beers and all that stuff. Theirs is their brand. That's what they're selling, right? So they can put that on pretty much anything that is lifestyle oriented. But if they went outside of lifestyle oriented, it would be a disconnect for the buyer.
Right. So what is your, like, the majority? So for the book, for instance, I wanted to focus a little bit on books that you've written. What is like the top of the funnel? What's the main part of the sales channel, or the main sales channel to get the books out to people? So obviously it leads into other parts of the funnel for speaking gigs and consulting gigs. But having written a book, obviously, like you said, that's allowed you to win more business. So, but what's the sales channel to start out? Where do the books, are you selling them on Amazon? Do you have websites set up to sell them? How do you get those out to people?
Yeah, so initially I started using Lightning Source, which is a division of Ingram, which is the largest book producer. It put me in all of like the chapters and the books a billion or whatever they're called. What I realized is that's not where people were buying the books. So I actually moved all of my books over about 6 years ago to Amazon. So I use KDP as my channel, and KDP gives me quick access to dumping in an ebook or dumping in a print book. It's all print on demand, so people buy the book and off you go. And what I do is I leave distribution up to Amazon because they are the masters at it. And I link my website to the Amazon account, which then distributes and handles all of the finance. I don't make as much money as a result, but that's okay. Because the books initially, when I write books, for me, I don't care how much money I make off of the book. It doesn't matter. The book itself, I'll never get rich writing books. But what I can get rich doing is leveraging the content of the book to do more presentations.
Right.
So the books for me are simply expensive business cards that have greater return on investment. If I give you a book or a business card, you're probably not going to throw away the book as quickly as you would the business card, right? And you're going to engage with the book a little bit more. I'm going to become that worm inside your brain. I'm going to be, you're going to put it down inside your office and leave it in the area when people are coming in your front foyer forum area, and people are going to be like, oh, hey, who's this? And they're going to pick it up, and it's going to start conversations. So that's the key in that strategy. The channel is Amazon. The channel is my website, but the channel is the back of the room where we set out books. The channel is when the client buys a keynote, you say, hey, do you want everybody to have a copy of the book? It costs this much. And everybody goes away with the book. There's multiple channels that you can access, but at the end of the day, it's really just about getting it in people's hands.
Yeah. the more expensive business card hits it on the head. I helped one of my clients. He'd been working with me, and I'd been working with him solely and helping him with his digital marketing, so Facebook ads, Google ads, etc. And he eventually was like, "I need to write a book about the topic that my product is." And he wrote the book, and I helped him launch the book, and it became an Amazon bestseller. But what it ended up actually eventually being was provides financial services, and at the very end of his marketing and sales funnel, you have to do an application to work with him, and you've got all kinds of information you got to fill out. He's quite picky with who he wants to work with because he doesn't want to waste his time. And one of the things that you get in completing the application is you get a free copy of his book, and for him it's like $7 or $8 or $9, and ended up being getting the book printed and in the lap of the person who applied. But the person's already watched a 45-minute webinar. They've also already done a 20-minute call with his pre-sales team, and now they're on the application portion, and they're putting their financial information, and they're putting all this stuff in, and then they get a copy of the book in their lap at the end of the whole process for free. And he when we started doing that, it kept people more engaged. It also allowed people to be more educated with what his offering was. By the time they get to the point where they're going to be signing a contract, they're more likely to actually become a customer. They're more likely to tell their friends about it because they've had his book sitting on the kitchen counter for the past 2 or 3 weeks while they decided whether or not they were going to move their investments from all these other places over to work with him, right? So that it became his expensive business card, as you said, put it.
Right. Well, you're building a relationship. It's a relationship, right? And we want to find ways of doing that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. We want to build relationships with people. I mean, if we're selling a $2 coffee, well, maybe we don't want to offer somebody a $7 book so they buy a $2 coffee. But if we're selling them the coffee machine, well, maybe we want to provide them the book that talks about how to make fancy coffees.
Yeah.
Right. So that that's the. So it has to be leveraged and measurable, and it has to be balanced in a way that makes sense. But at the end of the day, you're building your relationship. All my books have my face on it for a reason, and it's very logical. So that people are like, well, that's the guy. I want to meet that guy on stage, right? And when they're reading the book, they're reading it with me. Right, so we're building that emotional connection as much as the intellectual connection, as much as the social connection.
So, do you think an entrepreneur has to be an expert in their field already to write a book on their subject?
I don't know. AI writes books every day on something it's not expert
that's
on.
True.
No, I think that expert. So there's guruism, which has a place, but you don't have to be an expert to write a book. I was talking with my buddy Shane Paris yesterday. We had coffee, and Shane's been walking around the waterfront in Halifax taking pictures of the Halifax waterfront. And he's got these beautiful pictures, and I'm like, Shane, build a coffee table book, right? He's not an expert at photography. He did it all with his phone. He did it so that he would walk more for physical activity.
Okay.
And he ended up with these amazing pictures that he can sell. And I mean, he's not an expert in physical activity. He's not an expert in photography. He's not an expert in Halifax. Well, he could be an expert in Halifax, but you don't have to be an expert to produce something of value, right? You can do your research. You can write it from your own context. At the end of the day, just don't do any further harm. Like, don't make things up when you're putting it in words. Honor what your message is.
So then that takes me to the question: how is your education offering, the team building school? How is that going to attach to your offerings in the way that we just talked about? How your book attaches to everything? How is this new team building school? How is that going to attach?
So we're building a community. So at the end of the day, ultimately we're going to build a community of people who begin to see team building a different way. So that's gonna result in conferences. We're going to host and hold events where project managers and leaders will come together and talk about engagement and learn rubber to the road, ready tool activities. The asynchronous learning can go across boundaries. I can duplicate my time. One of the challenges with team building is you end up hiring a company like mine that comes in and does a one-off. Well, team building is energy, and it has to be constant inputs of energy. So the team building school gives you the tools that you need in order to keep that energy flowing. So the courses will come out of the presentation. So it could be a professional development day. Maybe they get included in their price a copy of the school, and they get to go in and become part of that community. We're going to host virtual summits on team building and in-person summits on team building. So it's going to start to grow the sphere of influence and the community of people who care about each other and understand that that business is about the actions of people making things happen. Everybody, you can build all the widgets you want in the world, but there's somebody building the widget. There's somebody writing the code for AI. There's somebody making the coffee. There's somebody doing customer service. It all comes down to the people. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, this will be a SaaS product that can help to up level the way that we grow people inside business.
Awesome. So before we finish, then, I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell the folks that are watching and listening, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? What's the best way for them to see your books or to see your keynotes? How would someone find you?
Yeah, so online you can go to tylerhayden.com, so tylerhayden.com. You can come find me on LinkedIn. I've got a LinkedIn newsletter that goes out randomly with team building ideas and tips, so you can sign up for that. And as well, head over to teambuildingschool.com. So Team Building School, just as it sounds.
Yeah, very aptly named.
We are... We locked into a really cool URL, and we're kind of in beta right now, but it'll be fully launched and it's operational. The courses that are in there right now are operational. We've just got some bundling and stuff that's going to happen in the next little bit. And come and join us. I mean, we want to. If you're committed to building better teams and building better communities, we're going to show you with laser focus how to do that. We use a very scientific approach, and we have everything, itemized and categorized so that we take the fluff and the worry and the stress out of building great team adventures.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, I sincerely appreciate you joining me today. It's been a wonderful chat, very eye-opening, and I hope we can do it again soon sometime.
I love it, Liam. Let's do it. Let's book it now.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.